Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.
Todd never sugarcoats it. Does he tell it straight? You bet. Does he deliver with a sense of humor? Always.
I always start my Sunday mornings off listening to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. It has tons of information, and he has such a great sense of humor.
My friends and I always tune in to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Hold on tight. Don't let go. It's time for the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner. On the merry way saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot metal 45, just another way to survive. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess from your breeze.
Welcome to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Good morning, good evening, and good night. I'm yours truly, attorney Todd L. Levitt, broadcasting once again, folks, in the middle of the mitten, pure Michigan, baby, a beautiful green nutrient field, the Great Lakes State. Craig Russell, how you doing?
I am well, Todd. How are you?
Well, I'm currently mobile. That's why I probably sound as if I'm calling in, because I'm calling in. I'm on my way back from Manistee, Michigan, the Manistee Forest, after shredding the gnar at the Lumberjack 100 with all my guys.
That was huge. 100-mile race. That's crazy.
3 33-mile loops in the Manistee Forest, the Big M Trail. Big Hair, Chris Taylor, Kyle, Malpe.
All those guys.
Sco, Cuffy, Chadster. My team was made up of Big Hair, Chadster, Tommy, and Shay from Ohio. And let me just say this. It was brutally hot, thousands of feet of elevation, and we all reached our goals.
Good for you.
Really
good.
Big shout out to the organizers, Rick and Scott and their family, all the volunteers and all the families, and everyone that made their way out there yesterday. It was awesome.
Fantastic. And going to be hot again today, too. It's supposed to be in the 90s again. Crazy. Just crazy.
It's going to be
heat.
nuts.
Crazy heat, but I'm glad you guys did well. I'm glad you stayed hydrated. Glad the race was good. Lots of stuff going on, man. Lots of stuff happening.
It's Father's Day.
Yes, it is. Happy Father's Day to you, Todd.
Happy Father's Day to you and all the fathers out there listening, not only on 98.5 UPS Rock 105 95.5, but also on our podcast from around the world.
All over the planet.
Planet Earth.
I wonder, do they celebrate Father's Day in other places in the world, or is that just a United States American thing?
That's a good question. Possibly somebody from around the world will contact us and let us know.
Let's hope so, because, not only can you hear us in all 50 states, but you hear us in Canada, and we're in Israel, and Portugal, and Sweden, and China. You name it, we are all over.
Yeah, big shout out to Sparky, our good buddy from South Dakota. Happy Father's Day to Sparky.
Yes, we love Sparky. Sparky's the man out in South Dakota. A lot of people love the show. Write in. If you've got a question you want to ask Todd about, toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com. Best way to get a hold of the show.
And you can, and please, if you're podcasting, you enjoy the show, tell a friend. We're trying to reach 1,000 downloads a week. We're slowly climbing. We appreciate everybody listening. And we have a huge show today.
Yeah,
this is going to be a huge show.
Yeah.
This is going to be the biggest show we've ever done.
Really? The biggest show?
One of the biggest shows we've ever done.
Wow.
We have an update, and this is going to be Michigan specific.
Okay.
We have a Michigan specific update. The city of Mount Pleasant, Michigan has adopted an ordinance finally allowing for cannabis businesses to take place within the city limits. So we're going to be talking about that.
Okay.
And what you need to do
Okay.
to get yourself in position to get one of those covenant licenses. Also, in the state of Michigan, if you have not yet gotten in line to get pre-qualified and approved by the state board, you need to do so. 500 applications are backlogged. Only 15 licenses have been granted so far.
Oh, wow. It's
in the state of Michigan.
It's taken a while.
You need to get pre-qualified. I have a good friend. Her name is Paula Givens. She's an attorney. You can look her up. I'll put you in contact with her, and she can help you get pre-qualified. So you need to get pre-qualified. It's the first thing you need to do in the state of Michigan. Also, we talked about the States Act last week.
Yes.
If you recall.
Yes.
I expect to pass. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the Second Amendment as it relates to state laws, Schedule 1, and federal government, and how that will change.
And it's interesting, you were talking about that, and then, wasn't it on Monday or Tuesday that President Trump was talking about that as well? I mean, it was almost like you reached into your crystal ball and we're talking about something, and then the president talked about it. It was pretty amazing how you kind of predicted the future there. Things that we're going to be talked about.
We're also going to be talking about, also we have a lot of listeners from around the world, the country, and we want to get back to the state of Michigan, to all our listeners for a moment. We have some updates on the ballot initiative and some information on that.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to be, and I am calling in, that's why it sounds like this. I'm just heading back from the Big M after shredding 100 miles yesterday.
I know, it's crazy. I think how are you sore after coming back from the 100 miler from the Big M? How are you doing right now, man?
Thousands of feet of elevation you're climbing, not all at once, over the period of the 11 hours that we were out there. 11 and a half hours in the woods. You're taking electrolytes. I feel it. I'll feel it more tomorrow. It takes about 3-4 days of recovery, but I'll feel it tomorrow.
That's just nuts, man. I don't know. There's no way I could do it. I mean, I've seen your GoPros of you doing. Is that what it is? Is the 100 miler? Is it on those little short, the little small one tracks through the woods and everything, or is it? Is it more
single track?
Is it single track
through the Mansfield Forest?
Oh, okay. Man, that's crazy. Nuts.
I do have a complaint though.
Okay.
About a month ago, I was complaining about a 4-way stop.
Right.
How when you approach a 4-way stop, there's an order to who goes next.
Sure.
I happened to approach a 4-way stop last week, and I happened to look down.
Uh-oh.
I had to look down at something because I'm not going to drive and be distracted. So when I came to this 4-way stop, I looked down. I was the first one there. The other 3 vehicles showed up at their respective stops. I didn't go, and they were annoyed as all heck with me. And I kept waving them on, go, go, go. And I'm telling you, they would not move until I moved first. So I'm just saying I got to call myself out. I came to the 4-way stop. I was the first one there, and I just sat there. And everybody's wondering, okay, what's going on now? It was great.
Now, I'm going to tell you, Todd, you complain a lot on this show, but that's the first time you've ever complained about yourself. You are the complaint.
Well, here's the thing. The other vehicles, after a reasonable amount of time, whichever that is, should have noticed that I was not going, so the next vehicle in line should have proceeded with caution. I mean, it's not my fault they're all sitting there waiting for me. No. Truthfully, I should have paid more attention, and if I approached it first, been on my way. But if I have a reason not to move forward, and I was waving, because I started waving everybody on like a traffic attendant at a construction site. I was waving them on, Craig.
I bet you were, and they didn't want anything to do with it.
I got out of my vehicle, put on a yellow jacket with a whistle, and I was just conducting traffic at that 4-way stop. I would love to have a pass to do that sometime. Just get out of my vehicle,
in the middle of nowhere,
put on a helmet, a whistle, a yellow jacket, and just conduct traffic.
Yeah, that's what the world needs.
Danny California, such as we opened the show with today.
Yeah. Oh, love that song. Yeah. But yeah, that's what the world needs. Todd Levitt directing traffic. That's exactly what
we have a huge show. We're going to be talking about the Second Amendment and how that new state's law, the States Act that the United States senators are trying to push forth, which would remove cannabis from Schedule 1 together with hemp, how that would affect your Second Amendment rights if you're in a state where there's recreational cannabis and if you're a grower. So that's a big deal. And also banking.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
talk about that when we come back from break.
All right.
Well, and happy Father's Day.
And happy Father's Day. We'll be right back on the Todd L. Levitt Law Show.
Getting born in the state of Mississippi. Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner. On the merry way, saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot metal 45. Just another way to survive. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess. I'm your priest. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Coming off the Lumberjack 100, shredding the gnar 100 miles with all my guys. And if you're just tuning in for the first time, Craig Russell, who and what are we?
We are the Todd L. Levitt Law Show, and you are attorney Todd L. Levitt. You specialize in drunk driving and driver's license restoration cases, also possession cases as well. And if they want to get a hold of you in your Mount Pleasant office, 989-772-6000, Todd Levitt.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Please be safe. Wear a seatbelt. Don't be distracted.
Yep.
Hey, let's get right to it, Craig.
Okay.
Last week, huge show. We talked about the States Act,
Which is a big
which
deal.
may end federal war on marijuana, and that's what we talked about. And just to refresh the listeners, about a week ago, a bipartisan coalition of the House and senators introduced legislation. There were bipartisan Cory Gardner, Elizabeth Warren, and basically the bill would allow the citizens of the states to control their own destiny in regards to medical and adult use of marijuana. Now, the problem, just to refresh, with marijuana laws today, there's two issues here, Craig. The first is there's always been a conflict of laws between the feds with strong laws that prohibit the use under Schedule 1 and the possession of sale of marijuana versus the states that have either at this point allowed medical or adult use of marijuana within its borders. And then you have the conflict between the old politicians of the old school mentality of the war on drugs, and then you have the younger generation, the more progressive individuals. And again, the CSA treats cannabis, marijuana, as a highly dangerous drug with very heavy federal penalties for violating the law. I mean, federal law hits a person with a 10-year mandatory minimum for possession of 1,000 kilos of marijuana. Isn't that crazy?
That is nuts. It is crazy, especially considering in most states, in half the states in the country, medical marijuana in some way, shape, or form is legal.
So when the state law gets passed, this is what it's going to do. It's going to remove cannabis, industrial hemp, all these products from Schedule 1. That's going to do two major things. One, it's going to pave the way for banking to take place in all the states that are currently allowing recreational cannabis or some form of medical cannabis, CBDs, cannabinoids, so that these individuals, these corporations can start using the banks and the credit unions, and so they don't have to do it in fear of the federal government coming after them. That's a big deal, Craig.
It is a big deal.
Second, it's going to allow, I believe, for individuals to exercise their Second Amendment rights. We're big Second Amendment guys. We love the Second Amendment.
Yep.
Currently, as it stands, if you're in a state such as Michigan and you're applying for one of these licenses to open up a processor, dispensary, any type of marijuana business, I get the question all the time, will that prevent me from getting a CPL? Yes, it would. Unfortunately, you cannot possess a firearm in and around a marijuana facility or business at this time because the federal law says it's illegal to do so.
Right.
To me, that's such a conflict. As soon as it's removed from Schedule 1, that will remove that conflict, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. And that needs to happen right away. I mean, that's BS. I mean, how can you be allowed to walk into a store purchase alcohol if you're 21 and older, and you can apply for a CPL. In Michigan we call it a CPL, concealed license permit, and there's no issues there unless you have some kind of criminal history preventing you from doing so. But yet in our state, as it currently stands, on the application, if you're applying for a CPL and you have a license to grow or you're around cannabis, the federal government says you cannot do so. I mean, look at the hypocrisy between alcohol and marijuana.
Well, and of course, at this point, because alcohol is technically a legal product and marijuana, even though in some places, and of course, medicinally it is, it's still a federal mandate and still a Schedule I drug. And that's where the problem lies. And that's where I know you're talking about the States Act's going to take care of some of those problems.
Right, exactly. But those are two big issues, banking and Second Amendment rights. Once the states have full autonomy and it strengthens the 10th Amendment, I look for those things to take place, Craig Russell. Craig Russell in the house. How you doing, Craig? Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to you, Todd. I'm probably not nearly as sore or hot and sticky as you are right now, coming back from the Big M and the 100-mile race. That's crazy.
Hey, by the way, big shout out to Gammy Woods. It's a family campground in Wademan, Michigan.
Okay.
Great folks. I know the owner, Patty, John. They do a great job out there. So if you're in the state of Michigan or outside the state of Michigan, be sure to check out Gammy Woods. I mean, a lot of these campgrounds, and we have folks listening to the show right now who are camping from all over the country and all over from the state of Michigan right now.
Yep.
So big shout out to Gammy Woods. Look it up online, Gammy Woods. Actually, they just had their Disney weekend.
Oh, that sounds cool.
They have a Father's Day weekend that's taking place right now as we speak. So they have tie-dye weekends, 4th of July coming up. And International RV, great place, sponsor of UPS, great RV place there in Mount Pleasant. International RV.
That's right. And
they do a great job. David, Mike, service, parts, sales, great job. Also, big shout out to Camping World up in Houghton Lake with Burns, Greeny, all those guys, Tyson. Good people up there.
Yeah, that's right. And if you're looking about maybe to rent a cabin or something for a vacation rental and say you're going to do it in the UP, you've got a great sponsor who helps us out up in St. Ignace, right?
Mackinac Properties, real estate and vacation rentals. Doesn't matter if you're from Michigan, out of state. You got to check out the Upper Peninsula. Contact Mackinac Properties, real estate and vacation rentals. Pay attention to our commercials and contact them. I mean, what a great family-owned business. Beautiful properties, Lower Peninsula, Upper Peninsula. Amazing.
Hey, Todd, we had an email into toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com. Want to know about the micro growth thing we were talking about last week, how the state of Michigan is going to allow maybe 150 plants for a micro grow. You have any more information about that?
I do. So, again, the state of Michigan gathered enough signatures through the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohol to put on the ballot this November in the state of Michigan. And on the language of the ballot will allow for 150 plant micro grows. So in the state of Michigan, as we currently speak, individuals can apply for Class A, B, or C licensing, 500 plant grows, 1,000, 1,500. This is 150 plant. Now, when the state goes rec, when the state of Michigan, and this may apply to your state, so check with your attorney or your statutes. When Michigan goes rec, individuals are going to have to apply for rec licensing.
Okay.
Just as individuals right now are trying to get approved and pre-approved in the state of Michigan. And by the way, so if you have not gotten pre-approved, call my office. I'll put you in touch with Paula Gibbons. She's probably one of the, and we talked about her doing a seminar with me. Instead of a seminar, I'm just going to put you in touch with Paula. So if you or someone you know is interested in getting pre-approved in the state of Michigan to possess one of those covenant medical marijuana facilities licensing act licenses, contact my office at 989-772-6000, and I'll put you in touch with Paula. She's a specialist in doing these applications. But in November, when the voters pass recreational cannabis in Michigan and industrial hemp and other uses of hemp, you still have to get approved for a rec license or a micro 150 grow license. That's something else you're going to have to get approved for.
Now, how stringent are those approval processes going to be? Is it going to be a pretty easy one, or is it going to be tough like the medicinal marijuana ones?
It all comes down to having the right attorney and everything lined up and making sure that the firm or attorney knows what he or she is doing. And I'm in contact with the best of the best. That's why I can take care of our listeners. Now, The interesting thing about the state of Michigan is once this goes, you're going to be allowed to purchase, transport, use, consume up to 2.5 ounces or less of cannabis. I call it cannabis marijuana. What you cannot do in the state of Michigan, I get questions all the time. Once it goes recreational in Michigan, what does that mean? Well, here's the thing. You cannot transfer marijuana to somebody under the age of 21, which I completely disagree with. I have a problem. I'm okay with the alcohol being 21, but when it comes to marijuana, I have a problem with that. That should be lowered because under 21 in the state of Michigan will not be allowed to, consume or possess marijuana. I disagree with that. Once the rec passes in Michigan, the law will say, if passed, which it will, you cannot consume in a public place, Craig Russell. You cannot consume in a public place unless the municipality in which you're living in or you're just in authorizes it in certain locations. So
well, that'll be
that's
interesting.
important.
That'll be interesting because there are some places, like isn't it New York or Los Angeles, you can do it right on the street?
There are states that allow that. I think Nevada is one of them. You will not be able to possess it in public or private schools on a school bus. That makes sense.
Well, sure.
So those laws are pretty consistent. And here's the other thing. Private employers will still have a right to test you and have drug policies in place. You can be fired from your job.
Yeah, but a lot of employers, they're having such a hard time finding people to work in general. Some places I know of have waived those laws and waived those rules. They won't even, that's not even a term for not being able to be employed at some places these days. They've just kind of looked the other way on that because they're having such a hard time finding employees. They've got to do what they've got to do, and so you've got to believe in places.
We've had a lot of shows on. We've had a lot of shows on that, by the way.
I know, but I'm just saying you would think the recreational part of it's going to even just speed that process up even more.
Exactly.
Hey, when we come back, we've got more law to talk about, including more cannabis law on the way. The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, taking a break.
Mississippi, Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner. On the merry way, saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot metal 45, just another way to survive. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess from your breeze.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. It's Craig Russell from the Morning Hustle in the studio. Todd is on the road on his way back from Manistee from the 100-miler yesterday that he did. Todd, are your legs jelly at this point?
No, my legs feel pretty good. It's my neck and my arms that are feeling it. My legs are a little tight, but we shred the gnar. Big Hair, Chris Taylor, everybody was out there. My boys from Ohio were up. My team from Ohio, Shay, Chadster, Tommy. Tommy, one of my teammates, he's a former Special Forces guy.
Wow.
He's from Ohio, Big Tom. And Tom was the lead rider in our group. And, boy, let me tell you, when I say Special Forces, this guy is 6'3", 220. I mean, I'm so proud that he's part of my team and that he served our country. But you can just imagine how he motivates us.
Oh, I bet.
Mile after mile after mile.
I bet.
I mean, you really feel like you're in boot camp with this guy, and it's 95 degrees out yesterday. But I love my guys, and I love Tommy, and I can't thank him enough and all our vets for what they do for us.
Were you guys sporting the Levitt Law Show jerseys at the race yesterday?
Levitt Law Firm, Levitt Law Show jerseys were supported. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Did you have a question for me?
Yeah, we had an email into Todd Levitt Law Show at gmail.com. And this is actually kind of shifting gears a little bit away from the marijuana. This is more of a question right up your alley for a drunk driver restoration, license restoration. I was in the state of Michigan a couple weeks ago and got arrested for drinking and driving, and I have had to leave the state without the court's permission. What are the penalties and what can happen to me?
That's a great question. In the state of Michigan, and again, depending upon what state you're in, you'll have to check with your local state statutes and your local courts. In the state of Michigan, when you're arrested and bond is set and bond is posted, there's a number of bond conditions that you must abide by. One of them is you are not to leave the state of Michigan without the specific writ from the court. Most people don't know this. When I get hired, because I specialize in everything drinking and driving throughout mid-Michigan all the way to the UP, that's one of the first things I ask the person. Are you from out of state? Do you need permission to leave the state? Are you leaving a state for a graduation, for work purposes, and such? We will then immediately, upon being hired, attempt to obtain permission for the individuals to leave the state. I can't recall a time in my practice where a magistrate or judge did not let someone leave the state. Now, there are specific cases where the individual he or she may be habitual offenders in regards to drinking and driving, or have a history of not appearing in court, fleeing and eluding, absconding. So their bond is going to be somewhat different. They may not be able to leave the state, but if it's your first offense, and in regards to our emailer, if it's this individual's first offense, I highly recommend, if he or she has an attorney in Michigan, to contact that attorney right away. And you need to return back to Michigan.
Yeah.
And get permission from the court. I would have contacted your lawyer immediately to make sure he or she gets permission for you to leave the state.
And it's as simple as that. As long as you can get that permission, then you can go back to your state and then come back when you have to come back for your court hearing. But if you don't do that, you're asking for trouble.
The purpose of bond is to assure that the individual appears in court. So, because the courts figure, look, if we're going to set a bond, $20,000, 10%, someone puts up $2,000 or a loved one, they're going to make sure that individual appears in court. $2,000 is a lot of money. Bonds vary. Bond will vary. Okay, you could be in the same court in front of 3 different magistrates, and bond could be completely different. Typically, the courts I practice in, they're pretty consistent. But county to county, court to court, bond will be different for the exact same offense. It's pretty interesting that way. And some of the bond conditions are that you're not to possess or consume any alcoholic beverages or illegal drugs or substances. So I have an issue with all of my cannabis clients who are placed on bond and have the medical right to use their medicine. The courts in the state of Michigan, for the most part, have struck these individuals down and have said they cannot use their medicine. And I really have a problem with that.
Now, will that change if recreational marijuana is voted into law at the end of this year? Could that change some of that?
If you're on probation or on bond for alcohol, even though you have a legal right if you're 21 and over to consume alcohol, you cannot consume alcohol. And they probably will say any other substances, legal substances, that could impair your ability to operate a motor vehicle and of such. Yes, they can still order you not to participate in substances and alcohol and other things.
Now, that's a judge following the law. That's not a judge just making, I don't want to say making up a law, or that's not a judge just interpreting things. That's pretty much the letter of the law, correct?
Bond conditions are pretty, I mean, if you are abusing, you can abuse anything that's legal.
Right.
I mean, alcohol's legal.
Sure.
People get arrested all the time. Look how many people I represent for high BAC, drinking and driving, minor possessions, which is now still infraction. But just like when cannabis is recreational, absolutely. You can still, if you're arrested, even though you will have a legal right to possess and consume cannabis products, you can still be pulled over and charged with operating while visibly impaired or operating while intoxicated. You can use anything that's legal. You should not be operating any machinery or motor vehicles or any equipment intoxicated or impaired from anything legal or otherwise. Do you agree?
No, totally agree. I just want to make sure that that's an actual judge who is, following the letter of the law, not just making a judgment call on saying something like that. So if that's the law, that's the law.
My issue is if you're on probation for alcohol, the judge will order, most judges in the state of Michigan will still order you not to possess or consume cannabis products. Now, if you have a doctor sign an application and it's your medicine, you're not in court for marijuana, you're in court for alcohol. The judge isn't telling you to stop taking your Adderall, Ativan, or any other prescribed medication. So I've always had a problem with this. And there are judges that have been more progressive and have loosened up somewhat, but not enough.
And do they have the legal right? Could they do a drug test if you came back and they suspect you have been using marijuana or cannabis? Will they have a legal right to drug test you to see if
when you're on probation, you're always subject to random testing. You are always subject. And if you're on probation for drinking and driving and the judge orders you not to participate in any controlled substances, legal or otherwise, and you come back for a test and you test positive for THC, you're going to violate probation.
Even though it's going to go...
Here's something interesting.
Okay,
Correct.
what?
I have something interesting.
What's that?
In the state of Michigan, this new ballot proposal, this new initiative that's going to be on a ballot in November in the state of Michigan,
Okay.
it calls for penalties to be civil infractions. There's a number of defined penalties and things that can take place that you are only responsible for a civil infraction, not a misdemeanor or felony. Now, that's not to say that there are not the state laws in regards to felonies and misdemeanors will not still exist. If you're 21 and under, obviously you're going to be charged with possession. I mean, there's certain things you can and cannot do, but a number of these proposals, and I don't have it in front of me, call for civil infractions. Again, the movement across the country is to release men and women who have jail sentences, period, were convicted of certain drug crimes. So that's the way the country's going. Now, look, we don't want people out there, again, to do things illegal. We're not advocating that on the show.
No, not at
all.
all.
We're doing on the show is advocating, and defending individuals' constitutional rights as individuals and sovereign individuals within their own sovereign states.
So this is that's actually, I would say, if a lot of those penalties are going to be just civil infractions, that's kind of a win, is it not? Because in the past, those haven't been civil infractions. Some of those penalties, they would be felonies and would be, misdemeanors and would be problems, correct?
Correct. Absolutely.
So that's a win. Win-win. Win-win.
Win-win for everybody. But again, let's go back for a moment, back to bond conditions.
Okay.
The purpose of bond is to assure that someone appears in court. Now, you always hear the term PR bond. I'm going to give you a $20,000 PR bond. I'm going to release you on your own personal recognizance.
Right.
If you fail to appear and you're picked up or you turn yourself in, you're going to need $20,000 cash to get out of jail again. So it's very important to follow all the bond conditions. When you are released from jail, you sign a bond condition release that you understand and have read what the conditions are. But most people don't read these. And when they hire my services, they come into my office, we ask them to bring those bond conditions, and we go over them very thoroughly so they understand exactly what they're supposed to do and not do. Because, look, as an attorney, you want to set your clients up for success, not failure.
Right.
And it's important that you do your job, not just knowing the law and knowing how to navigate through the criminal justice system, but understanding and explaining and educating your clients as to what to expect and what they're supposed to do and not do.
See, that sounds like talk of someone who's been practicing law for almost a quarter of a century in the state of Michigan, if you ask me.
Well, that would be me.
That would be you.
By the way, that would be a big announcement, too. Again,
Okay.
we said this in the last prior segments. If you are located in the state of Michigan or you're outside the state of Michigan and you're interested in obtaining one of those 5 coveted, Michigan Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act, you're supposed to be going through the pre-approval process right now.
Right.
So that's something you need to do. There's 500 backlogged pre-approved applications a week ago. 15 have been approved. I have an attorney who used to work in Colorado, Paula Givens. I'll put you in touch with her. So feel free to call my office if you're interested or have any questions, or send me an email, and I'll have Paula get back with you. She doesn't work for me. She's a good friend, and she's a great resource. She's going to be coming on the show as well.
Todd Levitt Law Show at gmail.com or 989-772-6000. Todd Levitt. Hey, we got to take a break, but when we come back, we've got more cannabis law and another question to get to on the Todd L. Levitt Law
Father's
Show.
Day,
yeah, happy Father's Day.
Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day. We'll be right back.
Getting born in the state of Mississippi. Papa was a copper and the mama was a hippie. In Alabama, she was swinging a hammer. Price you gotta pay when you break the panorama. She never knew that there was anything more than gold. What in the world does your company take me for? Black bandana, sweet Louisiana, robbing on a bank in the state of Indiana. She's a runner, rebel and a stunner. On the merry way saying, baby, what you gonna? Looking down the barrel of a hot metal 45. Just another way to survive. California, rest in peace. Simultaneous release. California, show your teeth. She's my priestess from your freeze. Yeah, yeah.
Welcome back to the Todd L. Levitt Law Show. Broadcasting once again, folks, in the middle of the mitten, pure green, beautiful mitten, nutrient field. I'm attorney Todd L. Levitt talking to you and my good friend Craig Russell. I'm mobile right now, Craig, as I was last week. I'm just returning from Manistee, Michigan to Lumberjack 100. We shredded the gnar on our mountain bikes. I have a Salsa Spearfish carbon fiber. It's my girlfriend. I call her my girlfriend. I call her Lady Spearfish.
That's your woman right there. Hey,
She never lets me down. She never lets me down.
Did Big Hair drive his Prius or did he drive his truck?
Big Hair drove his. No, he actually drove his Prius.
Did he drive the Prius? He's got his bike attached to the top of the Prius? That's crazy.
You ever see those shows where they jack up cars and trucks and they do certain things?
Yeah, like Pimp My Ride and stuff like that. Those shows.
Big Hair raised his Prius up 3 inches on each
God.
side. I mean, he's got a Prius that just rocks it nonstop.
185 miles to the gallon, that Prius going 40 miles an hour. Takes him 6 hours to get anywhere.
You got it.
That's great.
I have somebody that's in the motor. Someone's driving with me right now. They'll remain unknown, but they were giving me crap about my four-way stop sign issue when I came to the four-way stop last week. And I mentioned to the listeners in the beginning of the show that I looked down when I came to the stop sign. Three other cars showed up and were looking at me, and they were all upset with me because I was the first one there and I wasn't going, and they were confused.
Right.
Look, they shouldn't be so confused. I mean, I looked like a construction worker waving on traffic, and nobody would go, so eventually I had to go.
I know that it's not often you complain about yourself when you make your complaints, and so I have a feeling is your passenger in the car noticing you doing that at other times too?
No, this not at all.
Just wondering.
My other complaint is I need grocery stores to start putting healthier food on the end caps, because sometimes at the end of the day, when I really don't want to be walking up and down all those aisles, I just do my end cap shopping, and there's too much junk food on the end caps. Put some healthy food out there.
They know, man. They know why. They know you're coming, and so they put the junk food out on the end caps. They know. Hey, speaking of,
let's talk about Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you about. In Mount Pleasant, where you grocery shop, since that's where you are based out of, in the middle of the mitten in Mount Pleasant, Michigan. What's happening in town? There's a buzz about stuff happening.
Mount Pleasant, Michigan, folks, if you're from around the world, and we have listeners listening all over the world on podcasting, which we really appreciate. 24 countries listen to this show. They download it all over the United States. If you look at the state of Michigan, the Great Lakes state, we're a mitten. Mount Pleasant, Michigan, June 11th, finally adopted marijuana ordinances, Craig Russell.
Wow, finally.
They're going to allow for 3 provisioning centers, up to 5 Class A grower license, 3 Class B or C licensing, that's 1,000 to 1,500 plant licenses, unlimited licensing within certain areas for processing, transportation, and testing facilities. But here's the issue. The city of Mount Pleasant is requiring individuals to go through the pre-approval process through the state of Michigan, the marijuana board, as we keep talking about. And then October 1st, I believe, they're going to start accepting applications. You can get it online, go to the city of Mount Pleasant, or just look it up, that Mount Pleasant, Michigan, adopted ordinances. You'll see all the information, all the requirements. But they're going to go to a lottery is what's going to happen, because they're going to have too many applications.
Right.
So then it's going to a lottery system.
Which I guess is okay because, if they didn't do it that way and they just gave the licenses to the people who had the most money, I bet you companies and corporations would come in and it would shut out the little guy. And this way, at least in a lottery, it makes it kind of fair for everybody.
I'm on the fence about it.
And
I like the fairness that outsiders can come in.
Right.
I also feel that with these businesses and all the revenue that's going to be generated, I like to see the money go to the hardworking men and women who have fought the good fight for decades in these local communities. They're the ones who have really had the burden of putting up with, the laws the way they are, and they're from these communities. I want to make sure that the local people are the ones getting employed.
Hey, do you think it's any coincidence that the city of Mount Pleasant decided to pass those ordinances less than a week after it was announced that it would be on the November ballot? I mean, that seems to be a very coincidental time frame. They've been working on this and talking about this for months and months and months. And now all of a sudden...
The mayor of Mount Pleasant, Allison, she does a great job. I mean, she actually owns one of the local bike shops, so I'm a big fan of hers, and Motorless Motion, great bike shop. Mike works over there. He's a great mechanic, Motorless Motion, Mount Pleasant, Michigan. Also, big shout out to Terry Cycle in Elma. I can't go without saying Terry Cycle, Ray's Bike Shop, and my good buddy up in Alpena. Remember we talked about Tommy?
Yeah.
He's got his bike shop up there, too.
That's right.
Harborside Cycle and Sport.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful area up there. Beautiful.
My buddy Tommy owns that place, Harborside Cycle. But as far as Mount Pleasant, they've been having meetings for the last year. It was about time.
Yeah, I just thought it was coincidental that,
they saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. I bet you there's a lot of other communities in the next couple of months.
They did it right, though. Not to interrupt you, Craig. Mount Pleasant did it right, so I give full props to the city of Mount Pleasant. They had commissions. They did it right, so kudos.
Yeah, and I bet you there's going to be a lot of other communities in the state that are going to fall into line much quicker than now that there's a good chance it's going to go recreational come the end of November. I bet you all of a sudden you're going to start to see places that maybe have been mysteriously quiet about the whole approval process and about the whole application situation. They're all of a sudden going to come around because I have a feeling they're going to go, hey, we don't want to lose the money. We want to make sure we get our part of the pie as well.
Hey, I have an email from a listener here.
Okay.
That I printed off. Now, I'm not driving. I'm a passenger, so that's why we pulled over. We switched at the beginning of the show. I'm in a motor vehicle, folks. That's why I sound like I'm in a motor vehicle.
Okay.
So I'm able to read this.
Okay.
Now, what's the difference between a revoked license and a suspended license?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and the emailer doesn't indicate where they're from. But, again, this is state-specific. I'd like to find out from our listeners around the world in the various countries, if you get caught drinking and driving in your country, and we'll talk about, we will never mention your name. If you email us, do not have fear that we will mention your name on air or talk about anything that's confidential. I mean, I'm an attorney. That's first and foremost. So let us know at toddlevittlawshow@gmail.com what are the laws in your country or state. In Michigan, if you have 2 alcohol-related convictions within 7 years, your license is denied and revoked, meaning it's gone indefinitely, and there is a point that you're going to be eligible to apply for a restricted license. I specialize in, amongst other things, in drinking and driving offenses. Also, I specialize in drinking and operating watercraft, ORVs, snowmobiles, anything that has to do with an engine. So I do those cases all over Michigan, but restoring individuals' license is something that I really enjoy doing because it gives them independence and freedom again. So in the state of Michigan, if you're a first-time offender, you plead guilty, depending upon what you're pleading guilty to, the odds are you're going to have a restricted license with conditions. If you have 3 convictions within 10 years in Michigan, it's denied and revoked indefinitely. You're not eligible for a period of 5 years. So the difference between revocation means it's gone for good. There is a time period where you can apply for restrictions. Restrictions mean you can operate a motor vehicle only with certain restrictions, as allowed by law.
To go to work or to go to school, but probably not just for pleasure.
Typically, the restrictions in the state of Michigan after certain types of convictions pretty much spell out you can operate a motor vehicle to and from and during the course of employment, medical emergency, educational classes, AA, and as such, it does not give you the ability, and I disagree with this, having a restricted license in Michigan, unless specified, does not give you the ability to pick up your kids from school, pick up your kids on visitation dates, grocery shop, attend their specific events. I have a problem with the state of Michigan, and again, I'd like to know what each individual state calls for. We'll have to have Matt Green from Alabama back on the show.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yep, that's right. ToddLevittLawShow@gmail.com. Let us know. Hey, Todd, happy Father's Day. Show's over. We got to go.
Craig Russell, happy Father's Day to you, too. And if you're at a four-way stop, please pay attention. We hope everybody out there has a safe, happy, healthy Father's Day. No distracted driving. And be sure to catch our show and download it and tell a friend about us. Also, big announcement, Craig Russell.
Yes, Todd.
You and I are now available for speaking engagements.
That's right.
So if you have a corporate event, typically corporate events, or something that you're interested in having us come and speak or whatever you want to speak about, send us an email. Let us know what it is, when it is, and we'll have someone contact you and tell you what it would take to get you and I to their public event to do a public speak.
$50,000. No, I'm kidding. It's a joke. All right, Todd, happy Father's Day. Show's over, man. Take us out.
I'm not just a litigator. I'm an advocator. Take us out, Craig Russell, with a little red hot chili pepper.
The Todd L. Levitt Law Show, brought to you by Chad Mallywell Drilling of Rosebush, Clark Modular Homes, your most experienced and trusted builder in Mount Pleasant, Mackinac Properties and Northern Michigan Vacation Rentals, buying, selling, and renting properties in the Straits of Mackinac region since 1998. Harrison Power Sports, Central Michigan's fastest-growing full-line Arctic cat dealer, and Dr. Robert Townsend and Denali Healthcare for your alternative healthcare needs.
Opinions expressed on this radio program do not necessarily reflect the views of this radio station.